Hello, hello. Welcome to the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Bourne, and I'm so excited to be live with you today on LinkedIn. And I'm so excited to be joined by a good friend of mine. I'm going to bring him in just a moment. But before we do that, if you don't know anything about the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast, we have now recorded 4 seasons, hundreds of episodes. Would love for you to connect with us through Innovation Meets Leadership on Apple, Spotify, you name it, you can find us. So would love to connect with you if you are an innovator. Today, we have a really cool topic that we're going to discuss, and I'm going to bring in my friend now, Brandon Lee. Excited to have you. First and foremost, how are you doing? Because we're having a snowpocalypse in Atlanta right now. So we are all locked in our homes. How's it looking out there?
It looks beautiful. It's all white and fluffy and snowy. And I think we probably got 1.5 inches, 2 inches, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, I felt like I was back in Idaho. It was kind of nice.
Yeah, I haven't seen my kids in hours. So that's where it's at.
That's a good sign, right? I'm actually closing down a few things. I figure I got bandwidth issues, but yeah, I mean, I have a Jeep. It's got 4-wheel drive. I was actually going to go to the office, and I thought, yeah, I better. Nobody knows how to drive in snow here, so I'll just stay home.
They don't be a statistic. Just stay off the roads, right? So
you don't have the equipment here. Like, we don't have the equipment in Atlanta. We don't have the salting equipment. So I thought, I don't want to go drive on it and create black ice for other people.
Well, let's talk today about your background and what we're going to talk about today. Because today is, one of those days. A lot of people are snowed in across the U.S. So hopefully they're a captive audience with us and getting to hang out with us today, maybe even having lunch with us today. And you're a branding expert, personal branding, reputation branding, and you've been able to help leaders amplify their voices. I'm excited to talk to you about that today because no matter what sector, what industry you find yourself in, your reputation, your voice, it matters and it makes a difference. And so I find that you as a serial entrepreneur, you have had some pretty incredible cycles to the career that you've had over time. So I thought it would be really interesting to start just hearing about your entrepreneurial path, but then we'll pick up and talk a little bit about revenue through reputation, which again, I don't want people to check out and say, oh, I'm not in sales. This is not for me, because we all are in some form of sales. We're selling something every day. We sell ourselves and our reputation every day. So I feel like this is something that everyone can learn from. So I'm gonna highlight you for a second here and let you just spend a moment talking to us about your background and just your entrepreneurial journey.
Oh, thanks, Natalie. Well, I'm so excited. We have great conversations. We've exchanged books. We've had meals together. So thank you so much for having me here. But yeah, my entrepreneurial journey is, my early career, it wasn't as strategized or planned as I look back on and go, I wish I was a little smarter back then. Honestly, I started becoming an entrepreneur because I wasn't a great employee. I wasn't. I had a hard time believing in doing things that I didn't totally believe in. And I think, gosh, I was just such a pain in the butt as an employee. So I started my first company, and I actually joined a startup. I was the first employee to a startup with two owners of it. And I loved it. I loved the speed of it. I loved the creativity in it. I loved the innovation that we were doing. I loved having to figure things out, like, hey, we need to go do this, and would look around at each other and go, who's going to do it? And it wasn't like in a company like, who's best at this? It was like, who's going to go take it on and figure it out? And I'd be like, I'll go do it. I'll figure it out. And I love that part. And I got exposed to lots of new things that I never would have learned. I became a publisher of a magazine, which I never in a million years thought I would do. And I got into, when I look back at my career, I've been doing personal branding for business owners and salespeople for almost 30 years now, but I never called it that. Like back in, 97, when I started this, we didn't call it personal branding. We didn't even call it content marketing. It was just marketing. But here's the driver that I learned early in life is it's not what you know, but it's who you know. And what you know is important, because if you know a whole lot of people, but you don't know anything about anything, well, You just know a lot of people. So you got to know what you know, and you got to be good at what you do. But if you don't know people and people don't know you, you get a lot less opportunities. So that's really been the focus. I've built and sold a few companies. I've had some failures with companies that didn't work. You know, like the saying goes, I probably learned the most in those. You don't learn as much on the mountaintop as you do in the valley, because those are the times you're humbled enough to go, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've got the gray hairs to prove it. I got the bruises and to prove it. And there's a couple of successes in there with some exits as well.
Well, here's what I think is really important as I traverse different, backgrounds, companies, careers. I really feel strongly that I don't want to take advice from anyone who hasn't failed a few times. And so I think that's such an important part of the leadership journey and the entrepreneurial journey to say, you know what, I've had some successes, I've had some failures, I've learned from both, which we need to do both, right? But then you really kind of hit this lane. And, I was thinking about some advice that you gave me. I don't know if you knew you were giving me advice or not, but I thought it was pretty sound, is how important it is for entrepreneurs and leaders to focus, and how we can get so focused on talking about 100 different things instead of talking about one thing 100 ways. Yeah. And I think that you're really good at that. You're really good at helping people hone in on their message, craft their message, think about who they are, how they want to show up. And so let's talk a little bit about how did you launch Fist Bump? Kind of what was the premise that you were thinking about as you were bringing this company to life?
Yeah, Fist Bump was, so as I said before, I've been doing kind of the same thing throughout most of my career, and it's all been around how are we using content to grow reputation in order to create sales opportunities. And if you listen to that, it's like, wait, are you a marketing guy? Are you a sales guy? The answer is yes. I'm 1 foot in marketing and 1 foot in sales. And if I didn't think the term smarketing was so lame, I would say I was a smarketing person because of that. I think it's the right term. I just can't get myself to say it with a serious face, right? But I've always had 1 foot in marketing and 1 foot in sales, because marketing is about publicity. It's about creating awareness. It's about building brand. And again, I've been focused on personal brand, even though I didn't know what that word was. But how do we use content to help individuals grow their reputation in order to help their overall company grow, whether they're a solopreneur, they're a head of sales, or the CEO, or a C-suite member of a company? The more well-known a leader is, it like elevates everything in the company. So all these years I've been doing that. When I got into Fist Bump, and it took a little while for Fist Bump to come about, because I started like looking at LinkedIn going, wait a minute, if I change the lens and I start looking at LinkedIn from the lens of what we do in the offline world, there's something here. And what I mean by that is, if you go into a networking event in the offline world, and I look across the room and I go, oh, there's Natalie. I see her name tag. I see her title. I go, oh, she's somebody I want to, I think I could sell her something. And so I go walk right up to her. I pull my brochure out of the back pocket and I stick it in her face. And I go, Natalie, how would you, like to blah, 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 whatever my value proposition is. That's what we do in networking events, right? No, we would never do that in a live networking event, because people would be like, whoa, bro, get away from
too much. Yeah, stand down.
Much too soon. Yep. You didn't warm up the conversation.
Yeah.
You didn't go through the necessary stage of chit chat. But yet on LinkedIn, that's what most people do. They go, hey, I'm here. Do you have time for a call? And, we now call it pitch slapping.
Yes.
I started looking at LinkedIn going, well, what we humans do over here is this, but what people are doing on LinkedIn is that. And there was just a big chasm for me going, well, that would never work in real life.
Yeah.
And just because we're on screens, it doesn't mean there's real human beings on the other side of the screen, and humans act like humans.
Yeah. So let's pause there for a second, because this is probably my most frustrating thing about being on LinkedIn, is connecting with someone and there's no warm-up conversation. you immediately get the, here's what we do, schedule a call with me. And then I get like 6 more of those. And eventually I say, no, thank you, because I've just had enough. And then they do the one more try. And I'm like, hey, this is enough's enough, right?
And then you multiply that because you start getting 7 a day.
Yes.
Right. So
it's not working. So why are people still doing it?
Yeah. So here's my opinion. You know why we do it? We feel like we're in control. Like I just had a call and we were talking about this. If I am sending out a bunch of messages asking people for meetings, even though I know it has a really, really low probability of success, we feel, or at least a lot of sales leaders and business leaders feel like we're in control. And we've got this mindset now of, back when I started in business in my first sales job, I was expected to make 30 outbound calls a day. And it was like, wow, 30 calls. And I think SDRs, if you're in that world of SDRs or even AEs, like SDRs who that's all they do, I mean, they're expected to make like 150, 200 calls a day. And it's become a numbers game. And I get numbers game. I don't want to downplay numbers game. But if the medium we're using is not really producing fruit, at some point, a numbers game is just still a wasted effort. You're spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on people making calls, and you're producing $1, right? So you're spending $1,000 to make $1, and it's not really producing. But for so many business leaders or sales leaders right now, they just don't know what to do. I spoke to a sales leader. This has been about a year and a half ago now. But, reached out to me, had been watching my show, been watching my content. And I'm like, hear what I'm saying, watching my show, watching my content. He reached out to me because of my reputation from the content I produced. That's important for everybody to hear. But the story that I really want you to hear right now is we got on a call and he said, look, I've been in sales for over 30 years. I've pulled everything out of my bag of tricks. We are not getting the pipeline we need. We're still good at what we do. We still have a 33% conversion rate when an AE gets a prospect, but we don't have the pipeline to hit the goals because we're not creating those first conversations. And so that's the problem. And people are doing those pitch slappy LinkedIn automation tools because they can. Like, just because you can create a tech doesn't mean you should, but that happens all the time. So we're creating a tech that automates these messages, even though it breaks LinkedIn's terms and conditions. And we feel like we're doing something valuable, even though it's not producing fruit. That's my opinion why we do it. And the second part is, I don't know what else to do.
Right. So if check the box and try harder and just do more is not working. And again, I think a lot of organizations are feeling this strain where they're feeling like their leads are lessening, their normal kind of pathways to success are drying up, and they're frustrated. I think more and more, if we take the ground to email marketing and some of these other, cold calling, it's just not working, right? People are finding ways around having to deal with those calls that they may or may not have wanted to take. But you said something really interesting, which was he was watching your show. He was listening to your thought leadership. And I think that was even how we ended up meeting was, I was watching your content, sharing your content with other people, telling other people to follow you because of you were talking about things in a way that was refreshing. I hadn't heard other people on LinkedIn talking about. And so you kind of flipped the script. And so I do think that you're leaning into this idea of reputation and what does it take to be a thought leader. Again, it starts with having thoughts. It starts with putting them out there. Most people have a lot of really great thoughts, but they're unwilling to put them out there. And so I want to talk about, as you were talking to this leader, how did you help him kind of understand the world around him and how to think about it differently? Because I think a lot of sales leaders are in the same position.
Yeah, and that's a great question. Thank you for that, Natalie. And here's the challenge too, and I think especially with you and your expertise around innovation. As you know, innovation's hard for companies to adapt. Why? It breaks the system. It's new. It's different. We have that mentality. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Innovation is hard to adopt because it's a risk.
Yeah.
You get sales leaders or business leaders, but especially people who are not the ultimate boss in a company. And we're like, for the last 50 years, we've made cold calls. For the last 20 years-ish, we've sent out emails. So we've done content marketing, we've done cold outreach, we've done all the traditional things. But even though they're not working, you're putting your job on the line to innovate and try something different. If I get my team, instead of making 100 cold calls a day, and I push them to make 150, maybe I go buy some technology of an auto dialer. So now we're making 250 calls a day, and it still doesn't help us get the pipeline. I can't really be blamed. I'm safe. I'm protecting my job, because the powers that be don't want innovation. They want success, even though the tried and true is not tried and true anymore. Does that make sense? I think that's one of the biggest problems for leaders, but especially sales leaders or people in companies who aren't the ultimate decision maker. Their job is on the line if they took a risk and tried something different and it didn't work.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Now, when I was doing this differently, as you said, the lens shift for me. Now, if I see myself on a grid between relationship business and relationship, I'm very much relational business. I'm relationship first, business next. And I've been that way before LinkedIn. I was that way offline. I've been that way in all my companies. That relationship, I believe that if I do well within relationships, I may not get that deal, but I might get 3 or 4 referrals or 10. Right? Do first, right? And that's who I am, and that's the way I lead. So everything for me has always been relationship first, business second. Well, I applied that in LinkedIn. When I looked at LinkedIn, what most people are doing, I use this term, they're hiding behind their title. Everything is business, 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 business. Yeah. But if we go to real live events, we go to networking events, you go to the bar at a trade show event, you ask people to go to lunch or dinner or go for coffee or go to a ball game or go golfing, whatever that activity is, how much of the conversation is business versus how much is personal?
Most of it's personal, right? 70% at least. Yeah.
And we got to ask ourselves, why? Because that's where rapport is built. That's where connection is made. That's where a handshake becomes a fist bump, right? That's why I called the company Fist Bump, is that when you fist bump with somebody, and I know not everybody's into the bro fist bump, and I'm not a bro, but the representation of a fist bump, you only fist bump people you have a connection with.
Yeah.
But you'll shake hands with anybody. You start a meeting, you shake a hand. You have a horrible meeting, you shake their hands and say goodbye. Right. When you fist bump, it represents that, hey, there's some sort of connection. So I called the company Fist Bump because we help our clients get more connected, be more relevant, and be more influential in their industry, which results in more pipeline or more fist bumps. And so as you move into LinkedIn, you've got to look at that and go, yes, this is a digital mean, and this is just a screen. Natalie's not really there, but Natalie is really there. And on this, we're going live on LinkedIn. There's a bunch of people out there. And what do we do in live events? We tend to lead with personal because we want that connection. Now, biggest objection, everyone says, well, LinkedIn's not Facebook. Well, duh. I'm not saying take a picture of your food and tell everybody where you went to dinner.
Right.
But in a networking event, what are those topics that you're willing to share personally? Yeah. And there's topics we don't, right? I'm not saying, hey, go full open Komodo. And some people do it on LinkedIn, and God bless them. That's their style. That's okay. But I'm not saying go full open Komodo. It's just like, back in the early aughts, when my team, my call center salespeople, we started going to trade shows, what did we do? We trained them how to communicate in a booth. Yeah. Trained them how to communicate at the bar, because a lot of business gets done over drinks. But we trained them how to have conversations with people. It's no different. It's the same thing now. We're just training people how to use LinkedIn in creating content to become known, liked, trusted, and remembered. It's just now we call it connected, relevant, and influential in your space. And you have to bring some of that personality to it. Because if not, and this is the big key part, if you don't bring your uniqueifier of your personality, how are people going to remember you and differentiate you?
Right.
And I'll give an example and then I'll shut up. I had a call 2 weeks ago, I think 2 weeks-ish ago, I can't remember, with somebody. And we get on the phone. She was a founder of a company. And she said, "Oh gosh, Brandon, I love your Jeep Thoughts videos."
Yeah.
She remembered the Jeep thought as a theme.
Yep.
That helped to remember the content of my messages. And it kept me known, liked, and trusted and remembered. In her case, it happened. She also has a Jeep. She has got a really cool ranch in Texas. I can't wait to go visit her. But she had a Jeep as well. And so that humanity piece of my Jeep was strategic. The Jeep represents community because everyone does a Jeep wave, right? Yep. You do the Jeep ducks, you do the Jeep wave. If I'm in a parking lot and somebody else has a Jeep, we go, "What's up?"
I know you Jeep people, you guys have all kinds of stuff that we don't have. I know. Yeah. I need to get a Jeep just so I can belong.
Yeah. But the reason, like, I had the Jeep and then I was thinking about my personal brand and the messaging, and the Jeep represents community, and everything I do is about how do I help leaders grow their community, be more connected, more relevant, and more influential in their space, which is grow community. So Jeep Thoughts was the shtick, if you will, around my one weekly video. The content is very focused on helping people, but the theme is memorable. And now it's easier, real quick, and I'll shut up. It's easier for people to remember me because of Jeep Thoughts than just my content. So everybody out there, how will people remember you?
Yeah.
Because there's so many voices out there competing.
All right, let's back up and take it to the leader who's on LinkedIn and doing nothing. Like they're literally silent on LinkedIn. And let's say they're even on there several times a week, but they don't ever post. Maybe they like a little bit, maybe they comment a little bit when it's somebody that's, they know really, really well.
Congratulations on the job.
Right. That kind of thing. Exactly. So how do we move them from, this passive onlooker of everyone else's world and life and get them into that thought leadership that you talked about, the Jeep Thoughts and community? Because the biggest hurdle I see and the conversations I have over and over and over again is, I want to post something, but then I sit there and overthink it. And I don't want to get it out there, or I hate my voice. I hate myself on video. I don't want to put myself out there. So it's just, I just don't. How do we help people overcome these hurdles and understand, like, what are they missing out on by not being a presence on LinkedIn?
Well, number one, I hate my voice. Since I was a kid at home and I'd answer the voice and the people would always go, "Mrs. Lee." I'm like, "No." It was like so excited for puberty to hit, and I still sounded that way. I always had, "No, it's Brandon." So yeah, I hate my voice too, but whatever. Like my friend Alice Hyman says that if you're a CEO and you are not actively using LinkedIn as a strategy to help grow your business brand through you, get this, she says, you are a sales preventer.
Wow.
Yeah, she's gone beyond like, "Hey, you should be doing this, it'd be helpful." No, she's like, you're preventing sales. You are hurting yourself and you're hurting your team. And she is 1000% right. So what I try to do is help. I try to help leaders understand it this way. I generally say, do you ever go to trade shows with your team? Generally, yes. Post-COVID, maybe not so much, but whatever. Yes. When you're going to trade shows and you have a booth and your sales team are booking meetings, how often do they come to you and say, "Can you join this meeting?"
Mm-hmm.
All the time. They're like, I'm like, "Really? Interesting. Why do they do that?" I'm like, "Well, And they'll say some different things, but here's why they do it. Your CEO presence helps them with credibility. It helps the client feel appreciated, feel important, feels like, oh, the CEO took time to come see me. I must be important to them. There's so many things that your CEO presence does that helps your salesperson build better relationship rapport and move that sale down or up, or however you want to say it, move it along. And that's why they ask you to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? LinkedIn is just a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week networking event / trade show in your industry, because everyone's there. They all have name tags. They all have their name and their company name and their title, and they're all there. They come and go, but they're all there all the time. So if your sales team is like, hey, could you join me on this call? Can you join me in this meeting? There's a reason. Your CEO presence speaks a lot. And it's the same thing with LinkedIn. People connect better. I love doing this with a lot of leaders who refuse to do it. I'm like, okay, do me a favor. Trust me for a minute. I'm not going to punch you in the nose. I promise. Close your eyes. If I say the company Apple, what did you think of?
Steve Jobs, immediately.
Right. If I say Microsoft, what'd you think of?
Bill Gates.
Yeah. Bill Gates. Some more modern will say Satya.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla.
Elon.
Right. Virgin Atlantic. Richard Branson. Right. It's easy. When somebody says your company name, what do they think of? If they think of anything.
Right. Hopefully they can even recall the logo. And if not that, then nothing at all if your voice is silent. Right.
Right. But it's easier for humans to connect with another human than a brand.
That's right.
Which is why Nike spends hundreds of millions of dollars every year in sponsorships, because people around the world know Cristiano Ronaldo as the world's most famous footballer more than they know Nike. And it's proven. Go look at Nike's followers on X, and then go look at Cristiano Ronaldo's. He's like 20 times more. Go to LeBron James in basketball. Choose your sport, choose your whatever. That's why we do celebrity endorsements and sponsorships, because people remember people so much easier than they remember brands. And you, Mr. or Miss CEO, you have this huge opportunity to be a voice and a face of your company, just like Elon or Bill or Steve Jobs or other people. And I know it's scary and it's freaking hard, but guess what? We live in 2025. And this is just part of your job description, whether you like it or not. Now, you can choose to ignore it, but this is part of your job description in 2025 to do everything you possibly can to help your company grow and be successful to the best of its ability.
So good. All right. I can't believe it. Out of time, but I'd love for you to leave us with a final thought. Okay. So let's say that someone is now considering this, right? They're considering kind of moving out of that I'm watching everyone else live life into I'm going to jump in the front seat of the car, turn it on, and I'm going to start moving. What would that actually look like besides picking up the phone and calling you, which they should absolutely do? What does that look like to begin to move in this direction?
So there's a couple things there, and I'm going to jump to a point. And this isn't a plug. If you like this, go do it without us. If you need help, give us a call. If we can help you, we'd love to. But I think the shortcut to a lot of it is that, look, doing video like this and selfie video is tough. Like you said, we hate our voice. I don't like the way I look. Oh, I could say it better. Let me edit it. Let me redo it. And next thing you know, you spent an hour and a half trying to create 1 2-minute video, and you throw it away and you go, this isn't going to work, and you never touch it again.
Yep.
What I have found is I've done a lot of interviewing with customers, and it's one of the key things we do. We bring them into a digital studio and we interview them. And we're on camera with them, so they just feel like they're having a chat. But what I found is even better and easier is the reason why, I don't do live shows and podcasts just because I like live shows and podcasts. I manage, produce, and use live shows and podcasts for prospecting because it's the easiest and most efficient way for leaders to share their thought leadership. Do a 45-minute show. It takes an hour of your time. You don't really have to prepare that much. You get an agenda. You're like, oh, I've been in this industry 25, 30 years. I can talk about this all the time. You don't have to do a whole lot of prep work. You're having a chat with other people. So when people, your buyers, your prospects see it online, it's not what I call a talking head. And there's room for talking head videos, but if all you do is talking head, I mean, for everybody, think this for a second. You see a video and it's just one person talking. What's the first thing that comes to mind? They're selling. Generally. Mm-hmm. All they do is video of them. Like, well, they're selling. And we eventually go, I don't want to be sold, and we're not, but so now you mix it up, and now you got like your show. I mean, you got a show. Why do you do it? Right? You're having chats with people and you're delivering thought leadership content from other people as well as yourself, but it's in a more entertaining way because it's a chat. So if you're really, really scared and nervous, I like the live show and podcast. Be a co-host. Bring somebody else from your team to help you. Bring somebody, a partner from your industry to join you. Bring a client to join you. And then you bring in guests and you're just having a chat. Like, Natalie, the conversation we had today, even though because we're on, I probably talked more than I would if you and I were having lunch together. But this wasn't any really different than the chats that we have when there's not a camera on.
That's right.
You just have a chat. And then the key is, what's the playbook? How do we use the content? And we have an entire playbook that we use. And that's why I say, I go from marketing, hey, podcast, live show, record it, to sales. Like, how do we use that content? Who do we send it to? How do we send it to them? How are we messaging it? Which is a really big, important thing. But how are we using it for our outreach? And now you got this 1-2 punch. And I think the 1 + 1 = 3 in this case, because it's just such a valuable way to capture buyers' hearts and attention and be liked and, known, liked, and trusted and remembered. But that's my advice. If you're scared, start small, work your way up, but shows are the easiest way, I think.
Well, tell people how to find and follow you, because your content is so rich and prolific. I feel like people need to, follow you and just see how you do it so they can understand exactly what you're saying. So tell them a little bit how to find and follow you.
Yeah, the easiest one is on LinkedIn, and it's Brandon Lee. If you're a little bit in the Gen X, it's like the Crow, Bruce Lee's son. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's Brandon Lee. Shouldn't be too hard to remember. But go find me on LinkedIn. It's Brandon Lee Digital is my URL, if that helps. There's several of us on there. And then the company is getfistbumps.com if you want to go check it out. And look, but our sales process is pretty simple. Like, if we can help you, we want to help you. If we can't help you, we still want to help you. If we don't close a deal with you, we still want to help you. And I've just found that doing that, I find that you can't outgive God. So the more you give, the more you get. And that's just the philosophy that has served me well throughout my life.
Very cool. Part of the reason why we're great friends. And so thank you for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you, Brandon. You're a blast to follow on LinkedIn. So I hope everyone will do that. If you take just one moment to follow Brandon Lee, you'll get so much benefit out of that content. And
can I say something of that? Yeah. Don't just follow me, join in, like comment, have a conversation in public. It might be kind of scary, but it's easy there. I guarantee if you comment, unless I mess up and I forget, but if you comment, I will comment back. Like, that should
be the goal. No watching in 2025. Do something, right?
Comment. I mean, if you like it, but comment, join the conversation. And look, if you're nervous about creating content and you do it, either tag me in it and go, Brandon, I did it. And I'll be right over and I will comment and I'll go, good job. You can do it. Keep going. Or send me a private message. Go, I did it. And I'll be right over there commenting and encouraging you. Look, we need each other. It's a new muscle, especially for those of us that are like Gen X to baby boomer. This is a new muscle.
I love it.
We need each other.
I love it. This is so good. And guys, thank you so much for taking time to listen today, to join in with this conversation. Please like and share this across your platform so that other people can join in this conversation as well. And to our listeners, thank you for joining the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast. Remember, don't just get out of the box, break the box and set it on fire. Let's go transform something.